Hey, welcome everybody to Youth Ministry Help. Today we have a special treat for you. I'm interviewing Dave Miller of Leadership Pathway, an organization that's been around for 8 years, helping churches and residents make this next generation of ministry possible. Dave's going to be talking to us about 7 ingredients of leadership development. Dave, welcome to the show.
Oh man, I'm thrilled to be here. My hair's not nearly as cool as yours. I have no facial hair. I have no toy. Actually, I do have some toys in the office, but they're out of the video shot. Maybe I should take your advice and get some toys back there. But I love what you do. I love what you do, and I love youth pastors. So it's
Well, hey,
great to
just
be here.
for those who don't know who you are, what you do, unpack a little bit more of some of your background in ministry and what Leadership Pathway is all about.
Well, listen, if you're watching this and you're in ministry, the first thing you need to know about me is I'm just a big quitter. And guys like Mike and gals like you guys are the ones still faithfully doing it. So never forget when you're talking to some joker that's a consultant, first of all, we're just quitters. All right. You're still in it and you're our heroes. But I was in ministry, born and raised in Lexington, Kentucky, big church. Thought it was normal to have 100 kids in the youth group at a church in the 80s, 90s. I thought that was
Wow.
normal.
Wow.
And I thought it was normal to see kids baptized every week. I mean, every week, if there wasn't a student being baptized at my church down front, it was a weird week. I thought it was normal for churches to have youth pastors that stayed forever. I think he did 45. I think that was his only ministry, and he retired at
Wow.
65. I'm not sure what he did the last decade, but he was still there.
Yeah.
And then I went out and did it myself and found out how rare all of those experiences actually are. And
Sure.
so I'm blessed to have grown up in an amazing legacy sort of place like that. So I sometimes, I wish I was like, I was a good kid. And then I did 10 years for a cocaine bust. And then I found, no, I'm just an elder's kid growing up, running the halls of the church.
Yeah.
And so I'm standing on their shoulders. So that's who I am. I did ministry 15 years. I was primarily a creative arts pastor. Um, there weren't many creative arts pastors in those days. Honestly, I was kind of running it all from the booth in the back
Sure.
and realized early that we needed to get the young, more talented people on platform. And I
Okay.
had to reinvent how I could lead
Yeah.
and did that early. And then I did not mean to become a consultant. In
Okay.
2006, I was out of work. If you've ever been out of work, I can commiserate with you what that's like, and no fault of my own. Church was
Mm.
closing. Some guy's like, you should come consult this church with me. I'm like, what are we going to do? He says, we'll figure it out when we get there. And I came home and told my wife, I think I found something I can do till we figure this out. And I
Mm.
thought, 6 months of running around, doing some little exercises with elders and staff I would do while I applied and where I was
Sure.
going to go next. That was 20 years ago, Mike.
Wow.
So I guess I'll be a church consultant when I grow up, which I told someone yesterday. I'm the co-founder of Leadership Pathway, and no 6-year-old would ever tell you when they grow up they're dreaming about being a co-founder. But this is what God had for me, and it makes total sense. The nice thing about getting old is you get perspective, and I think back to like bad days in my 20s, in my 30s. It all makes sense now. And it was setting me up for this.
Yeah.
So we work with 18, 19 to 25-year-olds, helping them get into ministry, helping them start, hopefully in as healthy a place as they can start.
Mm.
And maybe they'll stay in, right?
Yeah.
And depends on who you read and which statistic you believe. It's either 18 months or 3 years. Either way, it's too short. The shelf life of
Yeah.
ministry people, youth pastors in particular, we
Yeah.
read these statistics, and that's the problem we're in love with. And we're in love with trying to help people start and stay longer.
Nice.
And that's leadership pathway.
Awesome. Well, let's get into our topic for today, and I'll put the screen and the microphone over to you, and
Uh-oh.
I'll hop in from time to time. But talk to us about leadership development.
Leadership development. Okay, here we go. In 20 minutes. Everything that I know, Mike. Everything that I know. And I'll say it twice, by the way, if it's 20 minutes. But we just came out with a book, by the way. Click below and get it for free. Mike will buy it for you. I'm just kidding. And we were told we'll be 8 years old on Friday. And we were told in our very first year before we ever started, you ought to write a book. It was all a bunch of theory. The core of us had some common experiences at a small Bible college, which has been out of business now for a long time. But we had these common experiences, these trends we were seeing, both inside that school as well as across the country, working with churches. And it was all theory. It was theory with a little bit of practice. And I'm so glad we didn't write a book, because we would have said a lot of dumb stuff. We probably still said a lot of dumb things that will unwire in a decade, but 8 years later, we finally got this book done. And one big learning, I would say, this has been the last 2 or 3 years just working this stuff out. I often say, we're not Barna, we're not Pew Research, but we've interviewed a few thousand people and talked to a few hundred at this point, worked with hundreds at this point. And one big learning is when you say, "What do you do leadership development?" What comes to mind? If you're still listening, 5 minutes in, what? And when I say the words leadership development, some people immediately picture a professor or a smart person up front, and everyone's sitting in rows, and they got their paper and their pen and their laptop and their cool kid iPad out. And they picture that. Yes, we do leadership development, and it's a class. And for 3 Tuesdays at 10 a.m., we talk about the 3 things that all start with letter C that we're all going to do this year to be a better leader. That person's probably, the way they learn, the way they engage the world, they're a book person. Leadership development. Other people picture we're sitting in a circle. Maybe you picture that. We're sitting in a circle. There's tears. People are praying. People are singing. If you're at a really progressive church, somebody's in the middle. We're all laying hands on somebody. Somebody's got the oil. Other people, where the Bibles are open. We're memorizing scripture. We're developing leaders. It looks a lot like a small group. Other people, do you do leadership development? Maybe you picture the ropes course outside. Yeah, we do. Once a year, we go away for 3 days. We do leadership development. We have to trust each other. At the big church, they helicoptered us into the woods, and we survived on berries and worms. We developed, right? I mean, we all
Yeah.
mainly it starts with, what were we doing between the ages of 18 and 25? Who were the people that said things to us that super impacted us?
Right.
And then we go out and that's what impacted us. So we impact others. And I'm no different. I am no different. If you said, "Do you do leader?" I'm like, yeah. I picture someone pushing me off a dock, and
Mm.
I couldn't even swim. Leadership development.
Yeah.
And those of us that survived that decade, called our 20s, we were leaders at the end of that decade. Now, the underbelly of that is some of us survived because we were workaholics.
Mm.
Not to project my own stuff onto everyone, but workaholism and daddy issues. And I'm still employed at age 30. That's not leadership development. I think those are sinful patterns, mainly. That's brokenness in action, but you're getting a raise for it, and you're getting promoted, and they think you're
Yeah.
the greatest things, and it's whatever.
Yeah.
And you're killing it. She's crushing it. He's killing. We hear these phrases. What do we mean when we say leadership development? If I said to you, "Do you like chocolate cake, Mike?" And Mike starts saying, "I love chocolate cake." It comes in a bag, in a 5-pound bag. and it's this white granulated stuff, and it's always on the bottom shelf at the grocery store. I'd say, I think you're talking about sugar. We need sugar to bake a chocolate cake. Or he said, yeah, they come a dozen or 18 and they're free range and they come out in a white. I love chocolate cake. I'm like, well, that's an egg. We probably need eggs.
Yeah.
We probably need a chocolate. How do we bake the cake? What are all the ingredients? We've landed on 7. And we assess and listen. Are these 7 ingredients? We could do are they apparent when we're doing leadership development? We could do an hour, we could do a week on each one of these. I'm going to do 30 seconds on each one, and then you can ask questions, Mike, or
Yeah.
we'll be done.
Okay.
7 minutes in. The first thing I already talked about, training, education. If you're a youth pastor today, or you want to be, or you're going to be, as you know, you have to be smarter than ever. You better know what's going on in the mind of a 6th grade boy or a 6th grade girl or an 8th grade girl who's confused, or a 7th grade boy, and their parents, by the way.
Yeah.
You really have to know stuff. When I began in ministry, the 10 commandments, I think, were still on the wall at school. Okay. Can you imagine a world
Wow.
where the principal flipped you the keys of the high school and said, can you lock the doors on the way out after you disciple all these athletes tonight? Your world, and it changed a long time ago. I'm describing a world where you're like, and then a dinosaur walked? Yeah, and then a dinosaur walked by the window of the middle school.
Yes.
You better be smarter than ever. You better know the word, right?
Yeah.
Your executive pastor or your business person or the chairman of the whatever would love it if you knew how to do an Excel spreadsheet, if you knew how to do presentation software like Mike can teach you how to do. There's no phoning anything in
No.
anymore. The parents can chat GPT their way and know your job as well as you know it. So there's no excuses. There's no excuses, and I'm sorry. It's the greatest time to be alive because of all of these tools. And it's one of the more difficult times when we need you to be smart. So training has to be in the mix. For
Yeah.
some, this is an MDiv.
Mm.
Give me 70 grand. I'll give you an MDiv. You can hang it in the Zoom shot right above the toys. Training. It's also watch Craig Groeschel's free video on how to kill it in youth ministry. Take notes, fill in the blank. Training.
Yeah.
I'm getting information. Never confuse an MDiv or this week's video or leadership book. Never confuse that ingredient for leadership development in its total entirety. Okay, that's one. Number 2, spiritual formation. You're like, well, duh. I'm like, yeah. So the spiritual formation champions among us might argue for an hour whether this is really happening in America, right? I understand when we say spiritual formation, everybody's got a hot take. Some people are just started small groups last year at their church for the first time ever. Others, they've already killed them. They've already gone out, and they're like, these don't work anymore to do spiritual formation. We're doing mentoring. We're doing one-on, whatever it is. But to develop a leader, you have to be smart. You have to love Jesus and have a heart for him and his people. That's spiritual formation. You have to be growing deep in the things of the word, the things of the spirit, the things, the true truths that never change, right? Of course, these 2 are the 2 that for a couple thousand years, the church has excelled at. So you have to, the gravitational pull in leadership development conversations, if everyone at the top of your organization has an MDiv from TEDS, for example, if they all went to fill in the blank seminary in your denomination, then training and education is super important. It's one of the hoops you got to get through. If you're in a denomination, you have to have this in order to just get up there and talk, or to get the raise, or to be called pastor or ordained. A lot of that's on shaky ground, even in the ones that they thought they were standing on the rock of higher education, it's rocking because we know this is in trouble.
Yeah.
But for 2,000 years, we've talked to people
Mm.
about God. Starts with a Sunday morning sermon. And then we've circled up at some point and prayed for each other and memorized the word and had discipline, and we were discipled. Those
Yeah.
two, the church typically kills that. The third one, we would say, we call it the third. This is the hot one to us. Our coaching materials kind of centers on this thing called soft skills. If you just
Mm.
reach over LinkedIn, your favorite search, soft skills, the entire marketplace has been talking about it for forever, 10 years more. Seth Godin, who,
Mm.
people claim I have a man crush on because I quote him all. He's like, this is the skill to train for. Because
Yes.
reading and writing, these workplace skills as AI and just the way we think and the way it's not nearly as important. But how do you walk in the room? How do you emotionally show up? Your emotional intelligence, things that you'll probably never have on a final in college,
Mm.
grit, determination, how you treat one another.
Yeah.
So can we as leaders add this ingredient into the mix and sit down and reflect back to those that we're supposedly developing, right? And speak into these things and talk about them. The fourth thing we would say is ownership. Okay, so those first three are sort of the doing of the thing. This
Yeah.
one, ownership. Does your pastor, your executive, whatever structure you're in, do the people at the top, as well as you, do you own it like the coach of the football team owns the success of this team? At the end of the year, if they went 3-8 again for the 10th year in a row, we're probably talking about bringing somebody else to Greenwood, Indiana to coach the high school football team. Let's just, when the team's winning, it's about the quarterback, number 7 and number 14, that receiver, number 32. We're talking about these people by name, by number. When the team's winning, it's on the plate. When the team's losing,
Mm.
it's on the coach. Do you own it? Do you own it like that? Coaches, I never played football, so let me talk as an expert. Offensive line coaches, defensive line coaches, head coaches, they don't just circle the team up and say, well, whatever y'all feel like today, and I'll be up there in the bleachers. Y'all think about it. Let me know. No, he's drilling them. He's
Yeah.
drilling them, drilling them. He knows, she knows it's on her, right? Do you own it? That's the fourth. The fifth one, best practices. Now, you and I both, we can look at a website of a church and we know if it's a place of best practices on the surface. What's the website look like? Was it designed by a blind person 15 years ago, or was it made on Squarespace by a 10th grader last week? That's the one. That's the good looking website, by the way.
Yeah.
It's more than just the creative stuff, though. It's more than just music. When we say best practices, I do not mean you're singing the top 10 songs in America and the lighting looks killer and it looks like Elevation or the other 3 churches we're obsessed with, right? I just mean, like, if you're going to teach someone how to do youth ministry, are they going to learn youth ministry like it's 2025? Are they going to learn it like it was when I was a kid, where the youth
Yeah.
pastor opened his house and 100 kids came into this house? Everyone was touching, by the way. We'd be in trouble if we did youth ministry this way today, right? Mike's like, oh my God. So, I mean, like, what do we believe about evangelism? What do we believe about missions? What our role in the cause of Jesus worldwide? What do we believe our role is? What will they hear? If you're in a racially charged town or state, all of them are, I think, but what will they hear about their church role in these things? Best practices. You got to have that if you're gonna develop a leader for today, let alone tomorrow. If I would just have to think, if you're not learning AI as a 20, they're definitely not learning it. They're picking it up through college or seminary. You have to be engaged there. You have to be engaged there. But what is it like in a best practices sort of student ministry?
Yeah.
How do we schedule people? Do we understand like the pressure on high school juniors who are
Mm.
playing lacrosse and they're on the debate team, and what their parents are? The best practice would be to understand context, your state, your town, your area of town, the people in your church, their friends. What do we believe about these things? That would be best practices. What are we up to? Number six. Number six would be mental wellness plan.
Mm.
I would look at every youth pastor thinking about bringing on the intern or a resident, is what we call them. They
Mhm.
stay for more than a year. They're called a resident. And I would be saying, what's the mental wellness plan? In some churches, the counselor's on the third floor. Every staff leader, they can go walk right up there and get time with her within 24 hours. Other places, they have the go-to referred
Mm.
counselor across town. There's a pastoral counselor on the team. In some churches, the senior pastor starts lots of sermon illustrations with, I was telling my therapist this week, and then they tell a story. It's very
Mm.
open, right? Other places, we
Yeah.
don't talk like that.
Yeah.
I got no problem with either camp, and I'm not here to promote either camp. All I would say to a youth pastor is, if your intern can't get out of bed suddenly,
Mm.
or if you start seeing them showing up late, they were doing great for 90 days or 100 days of this. At some point, you're like, wow, she showed up late, and she showed up with that trucker hat on again, but
Mm.
not the cool trucker hat that's part of the outfit, like the trucker hat that you pulled out of the hamper, and because you didn't have time to take a shower and you didn't get to sleep. You're not sleeping, you're not
Yeah.
eating well, you're not exercising, positive habits, your car's filthy dirty all of a sudden for some reason. You're forgetful, it's not just a work thing, right? It's just in their life.
Yeah.
They're not coming up to snuff. What's the plan? Because if you wait, if if you're at a church and the youngest person's 35 on the team, maybe you haven't experienced this yet. But if they're younger than 26, if you wait to see what happens, if other people are talking about it, but they're not
Yeah.
addressing it, you have to run to this. One thing that's really different leadership pathway today than even just 2 or 3 years ago is we had some places where we kind of waited to see, is he going to turn it around?
Mm.
Does he need to just pray more?
Hmm.
And we waited and we regretted it.
Yeah.
We regretted it. So at the first sign of these things, and there's things to watch for long before you need professional mental health, there are things to be watching for. Is that in place? Can we talk about it? It sounds like a big deal. It really isn't. In 5 minutes, I could send you the link of here's the few things to be watching for, and here's what to do when some of these things happen. And do you know who the counselor is you're going to call on
Yeah.
your? Okay. And then the final one is developmental conversations. All of this
Mm.
gets developed. All of it gets delivered through talking.
Mhm.
There's a cliche that somebody famous said that I'm going to steal. I can't remember who it was. So let me just say it this way. It's like I say over and over again, there is no management without mentorship.
Mm.
There is no leadership without being in the lives of young leaders. Gone are the days. I remember, if you're over 35, you remember that, just gritting your teeth at your boss, like, oh, when I have his job someday, I'm going to
Mm.
do it differently. That was my generation. That was my generation. Millennials, Gen X, people that are even older. We showed up, we saluted, we we did what we had to do. Those days are gone. We have to sit down. Someone asked me about the crisis in Gen Z. I said, well, the crisis is with their bosses. Let's admit it. 20 to 25-year-olds or 20 to 25-year-olds. And we kind of, we We've all been there at some point. I don't fault them. I don't fault them. Their bosses, on the other hand, their supervisors, their coaches, I'd say the crisis is there because we don't understand why someone would talk back or have a different idea
Yeah.
and inappropriately share it early in their career, like in the first year or 3.
Yeah.
We just expect people to behave like we behaved. I think this generation is their sniffer for inauthenticity is just on. It's dialed in. They sniff it early. They want to know that you're with them. They want to know that you hear them. We have to flip the script on how we talk about them as supervisors and coaches and bosses. And so all of that has to be done through conversation. If you're a whiteboard with the marker
Mm-hmm.
talker, that's fine. So every Thursday at 10 a.m., I'm sitting in there and you're doing the thing. And that's great. If you're let's get a Diet Coke and go walk the parking lot 4 times to have this, that's great. Do you do you, but it has to be done in a conversation.
Yeah.
Someone I got wind of was talking about their one-on-ones, their weekly one-on-ones. And come to find out, some things weren't going well. Come to find out, they hadn't been in the physical presence of their resident, their young leader, for weeks. And I get
Wow.
it.
Yeah.
Conferences, 2 weeks of camp, a trip to Africa, and pretending like a FaceTime from the back of an Uber as you run to the airport is a developmental conversation. It will fail. It will fail. One thing about it does not cost a lot of money, but it's costly to take on someone that's this generation and think about all the things that have to happen and how much time it takes to slow down, sit down in a world where every day we're inundated with hacks and AI tricks to make us more efficient than ever. Think of it 2,000 years ago. I'll close with this. The worship band can come on up. 2,000 years ago, there was this guy who developed some leaders, right? His name's Jesus. We all want to develop leaders like Jesus. We all want to develop leaders like Paul. These people, their unfair advantage, they walked everywhere. Think about it. Me and Mike, and I'm like, hey, Mike, let's go to Carmel and hold a revival service. That's about 40 miles, I think, from Mike,
Mm-hmm.
if I recall.
Yep.
How long is that? We walked 7 miles. No, we're not going to walk. We're going to walk 4 miles an hour. We're going to stop and have some Twinkies and a Diet Coke too. And so it's like, a day.
Yeah.
So we better, it's the services are Thursday night. Let's start at 6 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
We wouldn't need a therapist or a coach or a spiritual advice if we walked everywhere we went. The things you could work out,
Yeah.
the things you would talk about, and you're with Jesus, by the way, or you're with Paul. Paul said, 2 Timothy, he said, do it like this, and then tell others about it. The things I've shown you, he showed them. He didn't just tell them. We watch it, and think of how slowly all of this happened on ship rides where you're dependent on the wind. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
You're just talking and you're walking and you're watching it done, and then you're talking and then you're dozing off around the fire and you just keep talking.
Yeah.
But we want to develop leaders like Jesus developed them with some Slack channels or an Asana to do and never be around. And I just think that stuff has run its course, man. I think Gen Z, they're fixing some of this. Ironically, the most hooked up, digitally native, innovative, creative, smartest generation ever. They're like, would you just sit down and talk? And what do? We look at our calendar and we wonder, do we have 40 minutes to invest in this? I would loudly claim to those that want to do it, you need to do it. We need you to do it. There's never been a problem with the harvest. Look at the fields. They're white, but where's the pipeline? Where's the
Yeah.
pipeline? I read that book last year about the pipeline and it's collapsed. I don't know what's happening. I would say these 7 things.
Mm.
And it's all going to be a little different. We see this over and over. But to develop leaders like the church has done well, when it's done this well, and I would think you would say the first 70 or so were done pretty well. There were a couple
Yeah.
losers in that group, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was pretty well. But it was slow, and it was talked out, and then it was shown, and then it was talked out. So those are the 7 ingredients from my perspective.
Awesome. Thanks, Dave. So just 2 things I want to finish up with you. Someone's listening to this. I would imagine most people listen to that list of 7 and go, "Yeah, I've got some of those, but there's several I need to work on." What's their what's their action step after hearing this to help not be overwhelmed and do nothing,
Yeah,
but to actually be
absolutely.
proactive?
Well, I would say coaches need coaches. There's a reason why the the biggest leaders, the biggest athletes, the most successful people point to other people that draw this stuff out of them.
Yeah.
When someone says, "Well, I know my blind spots," well, then they're not blind spots. We all have them. I don't know mine because I'm blind to them, but my wife isn't.
Yeah.
My business partner, my co-founder in this, she can tell. I get her on here, she can list them for you. So we need people in our lives. Like, what do you see in me in this? What do
Yeah.
you see in me in this? And so someone speaking into it. The other thing, if you're watching this, launching a residency seems like a big deal, right? Because you
Yeah.
look at, like, we all obsess over the top 50 churches in America, their
Yeah.
music, their online presence, their residency programs. It's great to learn from these people, don't get me wrong, right? But when
Mhm.
you come back home, we don't just shelve worship because we don't have $3 million in sound and video and lighting and a paid professional band. Of course, we're going to sing song. I would say the same thing about residency. Call it whatever you want, but this idea of who's the next you, right? Of if you went on a 6-month cruise, who on the team would pick up the baton and do the work? Look around your team, and you're like, Dave, you don't understand. My
Mhm.
team's a bunch of losers. Oh, that's okay. So who's the chief loser? That's what I
Yeah.
would say. You don't get an option. You
Yeah.
don't. You got 12 people. Jesus had 12. He didn't look for the best and the brightest and the experienced and the smartest. So I would say look around your team. Who's the one that you might say, I see ministry in you? I go back to that legacy raising that I had with my youth pastor's name was Brewster McLeod.
Mhm.
And he had me in the hall as I was in 8th grade. And he said, I see this in you. I see this in you. Get it together. You could be like, he said, you could be like me someday. Most of us would call that arrogant or weird. I remember riding home in the church van, looking at the back of his head, thinking, I'm going to be like that guy someday.
Mhm.
And he gave me opportunities to do that. Sometimes it's as simple as that, man.
Yeah.
I was talking yesterday to someone, how many like top shelf, A-level, the people that we all love. And you're like, hey, where'd you start? They tell a story of some broken, dorky little church that needed something.
Yep.
And they stepped into it. And God was faithful and met them. And then they tell that story over and over and over again. You do not have to be at one of the top 50 churches in America with a publishing deal to
Yeah.
launch a residency. You just have to begin.
Yeah.
You just have to begin.
Well, thank you. And what's one resource you'd recommend them check out? I know you have a ton at your disposal and you promote, but
Yeah, I'd go to leadershippathway.org is what I would do. And then you get there and it's there's blog, there's some, all the marketing things are there. You can pop
sure.
on, you can click on, it's all free. There's videos, there's podcasts. It's all the things. Or
Awesome.
we can just talk. You can find us
That's right.
there too.
Great. Well, thanks so much, Dave. I appreciate it. This will help youth
I
leaders
mean,
as they develop young leaders and get the next generation stepping in.
right on. Love what you're doing.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.